Hello there. We welcome once again to another learning session. Today in our mathematics class, we'll be looking at comparing and ordering numbers. Comparing and ordering numbers. What do we mean by comparing numbers? When we compare numbers, we are trying to see which one is bigger or smaller than the other. When we compare numbers, we are trying to see which number is bigger or smaller than the other, or whether they are the same. And then when you order numbers, you are arranging them in a certain way, maybe from the smallest to the biggest, or from the biggest to the smallest. Ordering numbers means that you are arranging those numbers from either the smallest to the biggest, or from the biggest to the smallest. Okay, so that you see that comparing numbers and ordering numbers, they have some things in common. Without comparing numbers, first of all, there is no way you can order them correctly. If you don't know which number is bigger or smaller through comparing, you cannot arrange them correctly from either the smallest to the biggest, or from the biggest to the smallest. Okay, so that is the relationship between comparing numbers and ordering numbers. So before we move on to comparing numbers, we need to remind ourselves of what we have learned in our previous lessons. Remember, we talked about place value. Placed value. Remember when we said, for instance, if a number is a single digit number, that number falls under units. This is units or ones. You remember we talked about units and ones, and we said that this, among whole numbers, has the smallest value. And after unit, you remember we have tens. We talked about tens. So if a unit number here, for instance, is 8, the value of this 8 is simply 8. 8 under units is simply 8 ones. But this 8 under tens is not just 8. It is 8 tens. This under tens is what? 8 tens. And any number under tens has a 0 attached to it. That means 8 under tens is 8 and 0, which is 80. This is 8 and 0, which is 80. That means as you are moving towards your left, the value of numbers keep on increasing in the multiples of 10. So here you have units. Let's say 8 here. 8 is simply 8. But under tens, 8 is 80. 8 tens, which is 80. And then if we go a step backwards again towards the left, we have another position there, which is the hundreds position. The hundreds position. Now, if you have 8, still the same number, the same digit. If you have 8 on the hundreds position, that 8 is 8 hundredths. And 800 means 8 and 2 zeros. So you see 8 under unit is simply 8. 8 under unit here is 8. 8 under tens is 8 tens, which is 80. And 8 under 100 is 800. Okay, let me write this in a way that it won't confuse you, okay? Let me rewrite. I'm using a particular digit, the same digit for all of them, so that you will understand. So we have 100, tens, and unit. And remember we said the unit has the smallest value. The position of unit has the smallest value. And by the time you move to the next position, which is to the left, you have tens. And whatever digit is there is multiplied by 10. And when you move still a step further towards the left, you get to the position of 100, and the number there is multiplied by 100. So for instance, if you have 8 here, this 8 is simply 8. If you have 8 under tens, this 8 is 80. That is 8 tens. And if you have 8 under 100, this 8 is 800. Okay, I hope this helps to remind us of what we have learned about place value. Now we're going to look at something else again to help us with identifying the values of the digits in numbers. When we're able to identify the different values of the digits in numbers, we will be able to compare two different or more numbers and see which one is smaller or bigger than the other. So here we're going to consider this number line. Okay, this is called a number line. Okay, this is a number line. Now the extreme left end here, you have 0 mark. Here is 0, and at the extreme right end you have 100. So this number line represents all the numbers between 0 and 100. Now let's see how numbers progress from 0 to 100. So you have these marks, they are equal marks, and from 1, just look at these long ones, okay? They are equal marks, and each from one of these marks to the other, you have 10 units. From 0 to this first mark, you have 10. From this to the next one, you have another 10. So 10 plus 10 is 20. From this mark to the next, you have another 10. 20 plus 10 is 30. It just keeps going on like that till you get to 100. Now, if you look closely, I hope it is clear. If you look closely, you will see that midway between the two marks that we looked at, we have smaller marks right in the middle of those larger marks. You have smaller marks, and those ones represent the midpoint between, let me start from here. So here you should have 5. Between 0 and 10, the middle point of 0 and 10 is 5. The midpoint of 10 and 20 is 15. Just like that. So here you have 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85, and 95. Sorry, this is 85. Okay, 95. So these are the midpoints of these numbers. The larger ones are in tens, and the others are the midpoints, which are in fives. Okay, now if you want to determine which number is bigger than the other, you can use this number line to check what number is bigger or smaller than the other. For example, okay, let's take this first before we go on. The closer a number is to 0, the smaller the value is along this number line. And the closer a number is to 100, the bigger the number is on this number line. Remember, we are considering numbers from 0 to 100. So the closer a number is to 0, the smaller it is. And the closer a number is to 100, the bigger the number is. Now let's look at two numbers, for instance. The numbers 15, let's consider the numbers 15 and 35. 15 and 35. Which of these two numbers do you think is bigger? Which of these two numbers, 15 and 35, is bigger? Now look at the number line. Which of these two numbers is closer to 100? Remember, we're looking for the bigger number. Which of the numbers, 15 and 35, which of them is closer to 100? You can see that 35 is closer to 100. That means 35 is bigger. 35 is bigger than 15. 35 is bigger than 15. Or if the question is, which of these two numbers is smaller, what do you look at? You look at the number between these two that is closer to 0. Remember, we said the closer the number is to 0, the smaller the value. And the closer the number is to 100, the bigger the value on this number scale that we are considering. Okay, so if we look at the two, 15 is closer to 0, which means 15 is smaller than 35. Okay, 15 is smaller than 35. So on this number line, just following that rule of the closer the number that is closer to 0 is smaller than the number that is closer to 100. Maybe we should write that down. Let me write it somewhere for you. And there's something else I'm going to show us. Just note this down, then we move on to the next thing I want to show us. On this number line, the closer a number is to 0, the smaller the value. And the closer, okay, so this is for the smaller one. The closer a number is to 100, the bigger the value. Okay, I hope we are good. I hope this is clear. On this scale that we are looking at, the closer a number is to 0, the smaller the value, and the closer a number is to 100, the bigger the value. So before we continue to compare numbers and order them, we're going to look at the symbols that we use in mathematics for comparing numbers. Symbols that are used when we try to see which number is bigger than the other or which number is smaller than the other. So here are the 3 symbols. You can see them. There are 3 of them, okay? Now, if you look at these first 2 symbols, the one that represents greater than and the one that represents less than, you will find out that they have the same shape. The only difference is that they're facing different directions. They're exactly the same thing, but they're facing different directions. Now, there is something we usually tell our students to help them remember these signs so that they can correctly use them. Now, looking at this shape, you can see that it looks like the mouth of a crocodile that is opened. It looks like the mouth of a crocodile that is open. And we'll always say that the greedy crocodile always goes for the larger number. What do we mean by larger? Larger is the same thing as greater, and it's the same thing as bigger. The crocodile always goes for the bigger number. That's why they say it's greedy. You know, it's always looking for the bigger number to eat. So the mouth of the crocodile opens to the bigger number. So whatever number is on this side where the mouth of the crocodile is open to is considered greater than the other number. Now look at the second sign, the same sign but facing the other way. Now if you look at this end, it is closed. The mouth of the crocodile is open towards the right and it is closed towards the left. So if the mouth of the crocodile is closed, as you see here, towards a number, that number is considered less than the other number. if the mouth of the crocodile, if the sign, the closed end of the sign is facing a number, that number is said to be smaller. Less means smaller, is smaller than the other number that you are comparing it with. And lastly, we have these two signs here, these two dash. Okay, in mathematics, this sign or symbol means equal to. So if you have this sign, it means that the numbers at both ends of this sign have the same value. What does it mean that they have the same value? It means that both of them are equal. Both of them are the same. That means none is bigger than the other, or none is smaller than the other. So these are the signs that we use to compare numbers. The greater than sign, there the mouth is opened towards the bigger number. The less than sign, there the mouth, the symbol is closed towards the smaller number. And then you have the two dash, which represents equal to. Here it means the two numbers are the same. None is bigger than the other. So let's take an example. Let's compare two numbers and we try and use these symbols. So let's compare 16 and maybe 36. Okay, let's try and compare these two numbers. So here we're going to, if there are two things that you can use, okay? You can use your knowledge of place value, remember the unit and the tens thing, or you can use the knowledge of, you remember the number line we drew? Beautiful. You can use either of them to determine which is bigger between these two numbers, okay? Now, if we are using the place value method, you simply arrange. Let me take this up a little bit so that we have space. Okay. This is the first number, which is 16. Remember, the 6 comes under the unit and the 1 comes under tens. And the second number, the 6, also comes under unit and the 3 comes under tens. Now, you remember we said that unit, it has the smallest value in all these positional values. Unit is the smallest, followed by tens. Okay. Remember we said as we're moving towards the left, the values are increasing by multiples of 10. Okay, so unit is just basic digits, it's the normal digit, but by the time you go to tens, whatever digit you have in the position of 10 is multiplied by 10. The actual value is got when you multiply that digit by 10. So let's consider the first number. Here the unit number is 6, the tens number is 1. Looking at the second number, the unit number or digit is also 6. None is bigger than the other. But when you come to the tens position, you find out that this second number has 3 in the tens position, whereas the first number has 1 in the tens position. Now this 1 here simply stands for 10, while this 3 stands for 30, which is 30. So you find that this is 30 and 6, while this first number is 10 and 6. I'm sure by now you know the answer. You know which is bigger and which is smaller. Of course you do. Okay, so we know that 3 is bigger than 1. Both of them are in the same tens position. Both of them are multiplied by 10 to get their actual value. So this number 3 and 6, which is 36, is larger or greater or bigger than 1 and 6, 16. I hope we are clear. Now, let me show you something here. If you want to write the 16 first, you can write 16. You use the second sign. It's less than 36. Remember I told you that the basic difference between the symbols are the same. It's just that they're facing different directions. Now, I showed you here that this is greater sign. Please don't get confused, like, is it open to the left or is it open to the right? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. What is important is just be sure you make the open end of the symbol to face the bigger number and the closed end to face the smaller number. Yes, we have to write them a certain way to tell us, okay, this is greater than this, but please, there is no specific direction any of them faces. What determines what is what here is the numbers you are putting on the either side of the symbol. When the mouth of the symbol is opened towards a particular number, what you are saying is that that number is bigger than the other. And if you make the closed end, this closed end, to face a particular number, what you are telling us is that that number is smaller or less than the other number. So you determine the position of these symbols actually. Just note, the only thing you need to have in mind is the crocodile mouth, the greedy crocodile, always goes for the bigger number. So the crocodile opens its mouth to swallow the big number. Okay, the crocodile opens its mouth to swallow the big number. You can see the example we did here, or we took here. 36 is larger than 16, so look at the symbol, greater than 16. Remember, you can also choose to write it the other way around. I write in 16 first, which is the smaller number. So whether you write it first or you write it last, it really doesn't matter. But what matters is the mouth of the crocodile, look at this, is open towards the bigger number. And if you look at the inverted symbol, the same symbol but inverted, you will still find out that the mouth of the crocodile is open to the larger number. So just have that in your mind, that the crocodile, the greedy crocodile, always goes for the bigger number. Okay, so we're now going to use the number line to see how we can determine which is bigger, which number is bigger between 16 and 36. The one we just did now is using the place value, okay, to determine which of them is bigger or smaller. Now we're going to use our number line, okay? Remember, we looked at our number line, and there's a rule we tried to establish when we are using our number line to determine the size of numbers. We said the closer a number is to 0, the smaller it is, and the closer a number is to 100, the bigger the number is. Now let's look at 16. Let's try and locate 16 on the number line. This is 0, okay? And here you have 10. So between 0 and 10 you have 5. Now after 10, the midline between 10 and 20 is 15. That means our 16 is somewhere here, just close to 15. Do we agree that 16 is somewhere here between 15 and 20, right? Now let's try and locate 36 on the number line. This is 30. This number here is 35. That means 36 is somewhere between 35 and 40, right? After 35, when you are counting your numbers, the next number is 36, isn't it? Now look at the number line. Which of these two numbers do you think is closer to 100? And which of these two numbers do you think is closer to 0? You remember the rule. The closer it is to 100, the bigger. The closer it is to 0, the smaller. So if we look at these two numbers, this is 0 here, and the first number we meet as we move towards the right is 16 among these two numbers. So the first one we get to is 16. That means 16 is closer to 0. So if 16 is closer to 0, what does that tell us? It means that 16 is less than the next number, which is 36. Because for you to get to 36, you have to move farther away from 0. You have to move farther away. And as you are moving farther away from 0, you are going closer to 100. And we said that when the number is closer to 100, it is bigger. So 16 is closer to 0, while 35 is closer to 100. I mean 36, sorry. So that means 16 is less than 36, 16 is smaller than 36, 16 is not as big as 36. Then, if we are writing 36 first, we say 36 is greater than, bigger than, more than, larger than 16. Is it clear? So with these two numbers, we try to use the place value to determine which is bigger, which is smaller. And now we're using the number line to see which is bigger and which is smaller. We can see that this is exactly the same result we got when we use the place value method. I hope it's clear. So now we're going to look at ordering of numbers. When we say ordering numbers, what does that mean? Ordering numbers simply means arranging numbers in a certain way. When you arrange numbers maybe from the biggest to the smallest, or from the smallest to the biggest, you are ordering the numbers. So when you order numbers, you are arranging them either from the biggest to the smallest, or from the smallest to the biggest. So we're going to try, now that we have learned about comparing numbers, we have seen how we can compare numbers to see which one is bigger or smaller than the other. We are now going to try and order some numbers, okay? Let's try and order these numbers. Let's see, we have we have 6 numbers there, a set of 6 numbers. So let's try and order these numbers from, let me write order these numbers from the greatest to the least. Okay, let's say from the least to the greatest. Let's do from the least to the greatest. Order these numbers from the least to the greatest. What does the least mean? It means from the smallest number to the biggest number. Don't mind my writing, okay? Order these numbers from the smallest to the biggest number. So here we have 6, 29, 18, 12, 64, and 19. So we're going to arrange them starting from the smallest to the greatest. Now we're going to use our knowledge of numbers, okay? Remember, we've learned about numbers, and we said that all the digits that exist are from 0 to 9. And in between these numbers, or these 2 digits, you have the number 6. Okay? And remember, we said as you move from 0 to 9, the values of these numbers keep increasing. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you have your 9. So among these numbers, you see that 6, among these numbers you have here, you find that 6 is the only single digit number. Remember, we said that after 9, because we have run out of symbol, we now have to start combining these digits to form other numbers. So from after 9, any one more step forward, you get a 2-digit number, which is 10. Okay, and we know that 10 is bigger than 9. So we automatically understand here that 6 is the smallest number because it's the only single digit number there. Now after 6, let's write 6 down here, okay? We have 29, we have 18, we have 12, we have 64, and we have 19. So let's look at these numbers. Remember, these are all 2-digit numbers. All the digits to the right are under units, while the ones to the left are in tens. Now, if you look at these numbers, you will find out that you have those that start with 1. In the position of tens, you have 3 numbers that have 1 in their tens position. You have one that has 2 in the tens position, and you have one that has 6 in the tens position. Now, we have 3 of them with the same number in the tens position. So how do we determine which is bigger and which is smaller? We use the units digits. We use the digits in the units position. We use the digits in the unit position. So the first one here has 8 in the digit position, the second one has 2, and the third one has 9. So which of these digits has the smallest value? You have 8, you have 2, and you have 9. It's 2, of course. So that means the number that has 2 in the unit position among these 3 numbers that have ones in the tens position is the smallest. So that number is 12, 1 and 2. Now the other remaining 2, let's circle it so that we know we are done with it. The other numbers that have 1 in the tens position are 18 and 19. Now 1 and 1 are in the tens position, but in the unit position we have something that will help us to tell which is bigger or smaller. One has 8 in the unit position, the other has 9. 8 and 9, which is bigger? We know it is 9. So 8 follows 18, and then followed by 19. Okay? So after this, what do we have? After 19, after this fourth number, we have 2 numbers remaining. Let's circle it so we know we are done with those. Okay, we have 6, we have 12, we have 18, we have 19. Now we are left with 2 numbers, 29 and 64. We are left with 29 and 64. Now if we look at these 2 numbers, 9 is in the unit position, 2 is in the tens position. Here 4 is in the unit position and 6 is in the tens position. Remember, we said that anytime, any day, any number in the tens position has bigger value. So if you look at these 2 numbers, we just check the numbers in the tens position. That's what you will use to determine which is bigger, not the number in the unit position. No, because tens carries bigger value. So go to the tens position and check. If you check, one has 2 in the tens position, the other has 6. 2 and 6, which is bigger? Of course, this is bigger. So the next smaller number there is, so the smaller of these 2 numbers is the one that has 2 in the tens position, which is what? 29. And lastly, we have the biggest number there, which is 64. I hope we understand what we did here, right? We have 64 as the largest. So from the smallest to the biggest, we have 6, 12, 18, 19, 29, and 64. Okay, so for the last part of this lesson, we're quickly going to use our number line. Okay, please, let's just be fast about this. It's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. So you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, okay, 100. So let's get that out. So we have 100 here. Are we okay? Okay. Now let's use this to quickly determine all these numbers where they are located. Remember, your 6 is between 0 and 10. So here we have 6, right? Your 29 is between 20 and 30. So we have 29 somewhere here. Your 18 is between 10 and 20. Is close. That's it. 12 is between 10 and 20 still, but 12 is closer to 10 than 18. And then we have 19, which is closer still to 20 than 18. And then we have what number again? 29, which we have indicated already. And lastly, we have 64. 64 is between 60 and 70. And there it is. Okay, now let's look at this point and see how close they are to 0 and how farther away they are from 0. Remember, this is 6. 6 is the closest to 0. That means 6 is the smallest, right? Now this is 10. After 10, you have 11, you have 12. That means 12 is the next closest number to 0. So it follows 6. So after 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you get 18, 19, 20. The next one after 18 is 19. You see them? We keep moving farther away from 0. 6 is the closest, followed by 12, then 18, then 19. You can see that we are moving away from 0 and moving closer to 100. That means the numbers are increasing. They are getting bigger and bigger because they are moving away from 0 and they are going towards 100. So after 19, you go on, you will locate 29 just before you get to 30. So the next number is 29. And then you move on, you get to somewhere between 60 and 70. You have your 64. And that is the largest, followed by 29, by 19, 18, 12, and 6. And then when you are starting from the list, you have 6, followed by 12, followed by 18, 19, 29. And lastly, you have 64. This is what we're going to call it a day. Please, you just try to practice, okay? Using the place value we talked about and also the number line. I know you've done something on number line. It's easy and it's also very interesting, for you to use in determining the values of numbers. It's really easy. So just try and get some numbers to practice with, okay? I hope to see you again next week. But please, before then, keep practicing. Don't stop practicing, because it's by practicing you become a master of whatever it is you are learning. Okay? Take good care of yourself and stay safe, stay blessed.